this is Kermit the Frog.
Fascinating.
I'm Captain Kirk.
Magic is always there, as long as we keep looking for it.
Engage.
What does God need with a starship?
Thank you, love you. Mwah.
I protest. I am not a merry man.
Places, please. And here we go.
Down at Fraggle Rock.
Oh, man. Sorry, I had to take that moment in and not cut it off too soon. Welcome, Doozers, Gorgs, Trash Heaps, and Things, to episode 123 of the MuppeTrek Podcast. I'm Steve.
And I'm Jarman, and we're here on a journey across the stars to compare and contrast the creative worlds of Jim Henson and Gene Roddenberry.
What started as a comparison between The Muppet Show and Star Trek the original series has expanded.
And this week we have Fraggle Rock episode Beginnings and Next Generation episode The Arsenal of Freedom. How exciting.
But with a new show to talk about comes new bits.
That's right.
As there are no celebrity guests in Fraggle Rock, I can't talk about them.
That's true.
So instead I'm going to talk about what there are in Fraggle Rock. And that's rocks.
I want to rock!
There are tons and tons of gemstones, geodes, and compounds out there in the world. With each episode, I'm going to bring you a little factoid about one of them.
Beautiful.
And with 96 episodes of Fraggle Rock, we really will just scratch the surface.
That's crazy.
There's
to think
so
of.
many. There's so many. Because once they combined, it becomes like even more stuff. It's crazy.
Interesting.
So this week for the first That Rocks, I'm going to talk about actinolite.
Sorry, one more time. What was the rock?
Actinolite. It's found in the U.S. and Canada, which where it's sometimes used as a gem because of its pretty green color, but it's most commonly used in commercial work for creating things like synthetic asbestos.
Oh.
It is hard to cut, and so it's not that good of a gemstone, but its green color is one of the main compounds that makes up jade.
Oh,
so because of actinolite mixing with other things, jade gets its green color.
And I've never heard that word before in my life.
That's right. That's actinolite. And that rocks.
I want to rock!
I gave you one.
Yeah.
But what's happening in Fraggle Rock? We meet Uncle Traveling Matt, an adventurous Fraggle. What are Fraggles, you may ask? Well, Fraggles are silly subterranean creatures whose musical mayhem fill the underground caverns with mirth and merriment. Uncle Traveling Matt discovers a portal into outer space, which is really just an old seaside house that an old inventor and his dog are moving into. Uncle Traveling Matt goes to tell his nephew Gobo about his plans to further explore outer space. He plans to write letters and document his findings, and he needs Gobo to retrieve his findings every couple days from outer space. But there's only one problem: the Beast, who is really Sprocket, the inventor's dog. Gobo is worried that if he'll be brave enough to do it. So as he mopes around, we meet some of the other Fraggles. We get Moki, the sort of drifty poet type, Red, the adventurous daredevil, Boober, the worrywart, and Wembley, the scaredy cat. We also meet the Doozers, small green beings with work hats and a drive to constantly be building their Doozer constructions, which the Fraggles eat, causing them to build more Doozer constructions. Gobo decides to go and see the best advisor in the land, the Trash Heap. But Gobo has to go on a dangerous adventure through the Gorg's garden. What are Gorgs? Well, Gorgs are giant beings who I read on, I think it was Muppet Wiki, are estimated to be 22 feet tall.
Ooh.
Yeah, huge. And we meet Junior Gorg, who doesn't really get close to catching Gobo. Not really. The Trash Heap is named Marjorie and is literally a living trash heap that gives people advice. The Trash Heap sings a song with her two sidekick rats and basically tells Gobo, like, go talk to your friends. Maybe the friends will help you.
Yeah.
So Gobo finally goes, tells his friends about his trips to outer space and his worries, and they all agree to go with him. Just before they get there, or just as they get there, Sprocket, the dog's ball, goes through the hole into outer space, and so that freaks them out. The terrible round thing.
It's so ugly.
Gobo ventures out. His friends wait for him. He finds Uncle Traveling Matt's letter in the trash can, which is where Doc will throw them basically for the rest of the show. And just as he's sneaking back, Sprocket wakes up and grabs Gobo. Gobo, not only Gobo, but all of Fraggle society is about to be revealed to humans. This has big implications when his friends, the other Fraggles, throw the round terrible thing back, distracting the beast, and Gobo is able to make a run for it. They sing a great little song as Gobo begins to is happy that he got his letter and is excited to visit outer space many more times to come. So Jarman, how much Fraggle Rock had you taken in before this point? And have you seen this episode before?
I don't remember the first episode, no, because I remember watching it a lot as a kid, and so much so that I didn't remember this premise of it. This is what kind of it was all about. And I think when you're jumping in 2 seasons in or something as a kid, you don't really know the relationship with this guy and this dog, why they're there.
You just got to kind of accept it.
Yeah, he's there. He's next to the Fraggles for some reason. So now that I know the reasoning behind all of it, it's just like, oh, as an adult, this makes a lot more sense.
It's like the origin story you always needed.
Exactly. And yeah, so I remember loving it as a kid, and like just watching this was really a blast from the past, especially as soon as I saw the trash heap, Marjorie, I was like, oh, I remember that face. And I remember that hole in the wall.
Marjorie.
Yeah, and like the hole in the wall with the dog and everything. I don't remember making the connection of how much like Jabba the Hutt with their little creatures she looks like, because
yeah, she definitely
those
does.
look like a Salacious Crumb, I guess, is a little creature guy.
Yeah, that's it. That's his name.
But it reminds me a lot of that. It's kind of disturbing that she has large bosoms, but that's kind of weird.
You come to terms with it after a few episodes.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think already my favorite is the Goozers. So they're called the
Doozers.
The Doozers. They're just adorable and really cute. And I don't know how they do their little mouths, but that's just so fun.
Yeah, they went through a huge learning curve for Fraggle Rock, experimenting with like tiny servos and miniature controls. Yeah. And it was their work here in Fraggle Rock that allowed them to then do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ah, that makes sense.
Where they suddenly had to fit all these servos and hand controls in these very tight spaces.
And the mouth and everything of the heads.
But most of the tiny mechanisms they developed for Fraggle Rock then got turned in.
Because like the Doozers have like those, their mouth is moving so articulately and they're so tiny. And like, how the hell, almost like it was CGI. I was like, but they didn't have that kind of CGI money back then. So it was weird. But I just love how they're saying the Goozers is Goozers, right? Not Doozers.
Doozers. D with a D dog.
Dog.
Doozers.
Okay, gotcha. I'll learn this now watching the show.
No one knows the things that Doozers do.
But I love the fact that they're like about to eat his bridge that he just built. And I'm like, oh no. And then he's like, oh, it does my heart good. Architecture is meant to be enjoyed. And so they like building it for them to eat, which I thought was just cute and really adorable.
Yeah, we will get to a episode later in the seasons or maybe even later this season, where for the reason of the plot, the Fraggles stop eating Doozer constructions. And the Doozers keep building and building and building, and there's no more room. And the Doozers are like real depressed because they've got to move their whole society. Oh. Because there's no room to build there until finally the Fraggles decide to eat Doozer constructions again.
It's so strange, but it's so fun. And I just thought like fitting so much mythology into one episode is really difficult. And obviously they haven't covered everything yet. Like we don't know much about the really huge creatures yet.
Yeah, the Gorgs. Like I thought to myself, like, are we going to see the mom and dad? Like, do they even say his name? Like I had these moments where I know all this stuff, but I'm like, are they going to show? Is that actually in the episode or is it just in my head?
Yeah, because I don't remember much of those details at all. So it'll be fun to learn them because I just remember watching this show like more casually as a kid. But like, yeah, they packed so much in this first episode. The one thing I would say I didn't like as much yet was like that a lot of the songs were kind of on the slower tempo side and kind of around the same kind of feel and mood. Except for maybe the Trash Heap. I felt like she's definitely very different.
That was bluesy as hell.
Yeah,
that
bluesy
was great.
as hell. I like that. So I'm hoping there's a little more variation in the speed and tempo of the songs and mood of the songs. But other than that, they were still really good songs. So I can't believe they're going to be able to keep up that quality of music throughout the whole show. It's going to be very impressive.
I mean, what I'll tell you is that they're not all great, memorable songs, but I know a bunch of them. Like I still remember a bunch of them.
Nice.
And I'm gonna not say I would disagree, but I'm gonna propone for "Follow Me" with Uncle Traveling Matt.
Oh, that's great. That's one of the best songs.
Every day the world begins again. Like that was.
It was so cute too.
Yeah,
and the harmonies and everything.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's really great about this is Jerry Nelson, who plays Gobo, who is just a grown up. He always says he's a grown up nephew Robin. That's Gobo's voice as grown-up nephew Robin.
That makes sense.
And a little bit more Canadian. That's always just a little bit more Canadian. He's an incredible singer. You know, when Jim discovered him, he was trying to be a folk singer, and he really gets to shine. Him and Steve Whitmire, who plays Wembley, are both incredible vocalists. And so I think you're really going to enjoy it, because I know that was one of the major issues you have with a lot of Muppet stuff. While the songs are fun, I think a lot of times you were like, but the singing was awful. Couldn't
only a couple
understand
times.
Everything,
because a lot of them are singing badly on purpose. You can tell they can sing well and they stay on key.
Yeah.
But with like Miss Piggy, for example, like will stay on key, but with an annoying voice. So it's still fun because it's like you're still being able to follow along with the song. But it's when like the singing is just bad and they're not in key, then it's like, I don't really want to listen to this. But that doesn't happen too often.
You had a problem with like the singing fish in the second to last episode.
Yeah. I was like, they're not even hitting the notes. Like I can't even tell what song is.
I hate this. No, I agree. So much lore packed in. We don't spend too much time with any one thing. Even here, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief, and that like they don't try to explain that why Marjorie's alive.
Yeah, how is the trash heap speaking? No one knows.
Right. They don't try to explain the giants. They're just there. Like,
deal with it.
We don't need information about that yet. There's plenty of time. You got a whole show.
And Doc is just the actor, the one human actor in the show. He's just so genuine and folksy and just like he's a good actor. And it's just like it's hard to like. That's not always the case on kids shows. They get somebody that's kind of decent, but no, he's really endearing and he takes his dog Sprocket very seriously, and I love it.
He's there for it.
Yeah, he's there
for it. He knows why he's there. So I think a great opening entry. Of course, we have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah,
so I don't know
true.
Top, bottom. But what a kickoff.
Yeah, what a kickoff indeed.
Well, that brings me to another new bit to go with our new show called What Are Those Silly Creatures Up To? Starting next week, and this week a little bit, Uncle Traveling Matt writes nephew Gobo letters telling about his adventures and crazy things that us silly creatures, humans, are up to. Well, this week, Uncle Traveling Matt travels into outer space. He bumps into a friendly yellow fellow, or as us silly creatures would call it, a fire hydrant. So back in the day, if a fire broke out, this is crazy. I didn't realize this. Fire brigades would show up. They weren't necessarily connected or working together. They were independent fire brigades would show up. And the first one there would start digging up the ground, and they would dig down to the water main in the area. They would crack open the water main, and water would fill this hole that they had dug. And that's when they would get their buckets, and they would fill their buckets out of this hole that they just dug in the ground and broke a pipe to get. They would go, and then bucket brigade, maybe the fire goes out, maybe it doesn't. And then when it was done, they would plug the hole in the pipe and cover it back up. And fire hydrants, when they first arrived, were called fire plugs for a while, for a hot minute. But luckily, thank God, this all changed when Frederick Graff invented the first permanent fire hydrant, 1801.
So it's purposely put there instead of just plugging a hole in.
Right. He was like, what if we didn't do this every time and we just left a thing here? So yeah, that is the history of the friendly yellow fellow, or as us silly creatures would call it, the fire hydrant.
I would have known that stuff. That's
See, there you go. That's what I'm going to bring you in. What are those silly creatures up to?
And it also helps for people who maybe can't get a hold of these episodes and watch them. They'll be getting interesting information about rocks and about the random things that
that's
they
right.
So I mean, that's
be
pretty
learning
cool.
about geology and shit.
I know, it's pretty cool.
So, Jarman, what did you think was the best Muppeteering, Fraggleering moment in this episode?
It's all kind of new, so it's hard to like gauge what's going to be more impressive than anything else, because it's all kind of impressive at the moment, because it's this whole new sets that I'm seeing for the second time in my life, but as an adult for the first time. But I think for me, just as impressed me the most, just seeing the first ensemble song. I think it was the Hip Hip Hooray song.
Hip Hip Hooray.
Yeah, because like it showed for the first time all of the Fraggles all in one place at one time, even ones that seem to be controlled by servos or something like that, because you could see their mouths just kind of more mechanically opening in the background.
Yeah.
But it was just all the Fraggles, everybody's on deck here. putting it all in one place, dancing around, moving around, people flipping into water. It's like, whoa, this is a lot going on. So this is what we have in store for us here. So that was kind of the most impressive for me.
I'm going to give it to the trashy Marjorie's first appearance. Just Marjorie kind of like just extending up out of this nothing.
It always looks cool.
And just was a great effect to have just like puppeteers stand up and get into the thing and like.
And she comes back down.
Add that to like the great musicality of whoever performed that part, the great performance, and then the two little rat guys. And it's got my bet. Like it's got my vote. I'm good.
It's like a friendly Jabba the Hutt. It's wonderful.
Friendly Jabba the Hutt. Well, Jarman, what happened on this week's episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation?
All right, so we have the Arsenal of Freedom, which sounds like something out of Starship Troopers. So we have the Enterprise on a mission to the Lorenz cluster to find the USS Drake after it seemingly vanished after surveying the planet Minos. But many years ago, that planet was known for being very wealthy because it was arms dealers basically were living there, and they would sell arms to the whole universe. But when they get to the planet, they are greeted by a holographic message of that creepy guy from the movie Ghost, that actor, and he's trying to sell them weapons. But they can't find any sign of the USS Drake or any signs of life on the planet at all. So Riker, Data, and Yar go down to the surface to investigate, and Riker soon finds his old friend and captain of the USS Drake, Captain Rice, right there on the planet, even though they didn't find any life signs. But he quickly finds out through conversation that he is just a fake hologram of the captain, and that's actually a weapons drone trying to get information out of him by using the figure of Rice. And then Yar and Data are able to destroy the drone, but not until after it traps Riker in a force field, freezing him in place. And for some inexplicable reason, I didn't see why, this causes the captain to go down himself to the surface to help with Dr. Crusher, even though people are protesting that he shouldn't do that. And they meet the away team, but then they're attacked by another drone, and Picard and Crusher run away, but they fall down a hole, and Crusher is badly injured, but Picard is left without a scratch. And Data and Yar are able to free Riker finally from the force field. That's the words I'm looking for. And they take out the next drone, but then they realize the drones are getting smarter each time they arrive every 12 minutes and are harder to kill. Meanwhile, back in the Enterprise, Geordi is put in charge, but he's getting attacked by a space drone as well. So he eventually has to retreat, but only after getting some serious sass from the current chief engineer, who's a huge dick. No idea who that guy is. He separates from the saucer section to save the people of the ship and puts
to escape that dick.
Just to escape the dick. And then he goes back to the planet in the battle bridge to kick some drone ass. But back down the surface, Data jumps down in the hole to help Picard and Crusher, and they encounter another hologram of the ghost guy salesman again. And he goes on and on about how awesome his drones are and how the demonstration of the drones killing all of Picard's people will be really impressive and really impress him. But finally, Picard figures out that if he just tells the hologram that he'll buy the damn drones, it'll stop the demonstration, which will save Riker and Yar, who are currently being pinned down by the final lethal drone. But the demonstration shuts down, saving Riker and Yar, but the space drone is still attacking the Enterprise for some reason. So Geordi takes the battle bridge and aims it for the planet's atmosphere so he can get a clear shot at this cloaked drone that's been hiding from them, and he blows it up. He puts the shields down, and he brings the away team back to safety. And then we all live happily ever after. So, Steve, what do you think of Arsenal of Freedom?
Okay, so some things I started liking was that Picard wasn't the one who went down, and then he wrecked it.
Yep.
I was like, finally, Riker's doing Riker things. Like, good. But then, yeah. So then Picard coming down just shortcut the whole thing.
And there wasn't really a reason why. It's like, why is he going down?
There wasn't. I liked, the disappearing ship was a good hook. Him running into like a guy who's like clearly not his friend was a good hook. I wish they would have taken the audience a little further with it, in that as soon as you saw that guy and he started talking, you knew he wasn't right.
I am weird.
I wish there could have been a moment where it was right and then it turned or changed in a way that made the audience aware.
Yeah, he could have spoken normally and then tricked him. And then when Riker asked him about his mom or something and then asked questions that he's getting wrong, then he could be suspicious. But he wasn't acting normal from the get-go. It was kind of weird.
So I just wish that they could have played that more subtle, because otherwise I was like, oh, something's wrong with that guy. I thought that the plot on the planet of the merging every 12-minute drones, while the 12-minute timer was like a classic construct they made to drive tension and to drive up things, that I just didn't care about any of it. Any of it. It was too slow. Their solutions weren't progressive either, in that the first time was, let's shoot at the force field. Okay, now let's shoot at it. Oh, that didn't work. Let's shoot at it, but harder this time. Let's shoot at it, but this time I'll shoot from this direction and you shoot from that direction. Okay, this time there's 3 of us. We're going to shoot even harder. Like, it just, there was no interest on that front.
He even asked Yara, he's like, do you have any other ideas? She's like, no.
No, we're just going to have to shoot as hard as we can.
That's the only training I received in Starfleet. Shoot harder.
So there was not enough there to drive that. It just came off as so flat.
I could see
in that regard. I did like that we got to see a little bit more development of Picard and Crusher, who they are really shipping hard this season. I know you say it backs off, but this season they are really shipping those two hard.
So I didn't even include it in my trivia later on, so I'll say it now that apparently in the original script, it was like this was the scene where she was going to tell him her feelings for him, and he was going to be the one who was injured seriously, and when he was dying, she was going to tell him, but I love you, you can't die. And so they rewrote it, and even Gene Roddenberry himself didn't want that. And he says, I don't want that, my kind of development. These are just professionals. And so it actually caused one of the writers, the writer of that original script, to quit the show entirely, never come back, because he's like, this guy doesn't want any character development. Like, I can't do anything with this. And so they forced it to not happen, even though it was definitely going to happen in this episode.
I like the moment where Data became the group's barbarian.
Yeah.
We're like, Crusher and Picard are down this hole. Everyone's looking around. Can we climb down the vines? Can we lower something down? I don't know. What should we? Can we be in the mountain? Everyone's like, Data's like, I could just jump down there. They're like, really? You're gonna hurt yourself? And he went, nah, I got this. Jumped in. Damage. Like, he was the group's barbarian. Like, don't worry, I'll pop rage on the way down. I'll only take half damage because it's bludgeoning. We're fine.
I got a really good jump check. It's cool.
I got a really good athletics. So I liked that moment. Some things I struggled with, once again, the pacing just on the planet side just didn't have anything happen. If anything, what was going on in the ship with Geordi was way more interesting.
I like that Geordi was getting, like, his own screen time there. The
dynamic of, the chief engineer who technically outranks him coming up and trying to pull rank, and him like quoting Starfleet orders like, no, I am in charge. And then even that good turn for the audience when Geordi, it looked like he was going to give up. Like, that's what they wanted us to think. Like, he was going to turn over command, and he's like, you are getting command of the saucer. Get the people out of here. And I was like, oh, that's badass. All right,
go for it, Jordan.
Yeah, all right. And so that was far more interesting to me than what was happening on the planet. Truly. I just wish they didn't have to send Picard down. I know why they did it. They did it to give Geordi that, because otherwise, how do you get Geordi in charge?
Yeah, they should have had some reason. Just one line is all we need as to why Picard had to go down there, because there was nothing. There was no reason why he should be going down.
I think that there could have been, I don't know. I'm thinking the easy out there is why Picard had to go down is suddenly they start getting hailed, and it's one of his old Starfleet buddies who was the captain of, it's the same thing for Riker.
Yeah.
Says like, Jean-Luc, there's something down here I have to show you.
Or
that's
even
how you get Jean-Luc down there.
Even easier too, like have the hologram says, oh, I'd love to make a sail to stop the demonstration, but I can only speak to the captain of the ship to make that sail. And then he has to come down in person, or just anything like that. There could have been like 2 lines. It would make more sense.
I think what could have been even cooler then is then Geordi goes down with that crew. Picard puts him in charge and then gets frozen in the force field for like the rest of the fucking episode.
Yeah.
Then Geordi's in charge down there. Riker's still on the ship.
That works too.
And then that becomes the actual A plot.
Because I really liked there was tons of good ensemble moments here, and like everybody got a little piece of action. But even Yar's part was just like, shoot harder.
It was a little beefier than the last 10 episodes.
But I liked even Troy had the moment of kind of actually being a counselor and counseling Geordi about how to be a better captain leader.
Mm-hmm.
And like I thought she was going to say he was doing a terrible job, but instead she's like, no, you're doing a great job. You just need to actually encourage your people because they'll need some kind of encouragement from you because you're doing fine, but they're not doing so
also
high.
Her insight, once again, for like the second time in the entire show where her empathy thing makes sense and comes in handy in a real way, where she can read through the facade of the chief engineer and knows that he is scared and he's panicky because she can feel it.
Yeah.
Like finally that friggin' pays off. Same thing with the helmsman she's very green and not very sure of herself, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, finally.
She's a counselor.
Troy,
she's
you're
supposed
doing
to be doing
a
those
thing.
things.
Look at you.
And even Worf is finally the tactical station instead of Yar. So he's got some good moments where it's just like, he's like, can you shoot that fast? He's like, yes, I can. It's like, yeah, Worf. All right. You got this.
When they're hunting the space probe, trying to figure out where the hell it's going to show up.
Yeah, exactly. So it was all a lot of good ensemble moments. So for me, I until you started breaking down some bad parts that I didn't really notice, I actually was like,
bud.
No, it's fine. Because I was like, I thought this episode went by real fast for me. And I didn't have any of those. I didn't feel it was going that slow. I did have to watch it in chunks because of work I was doing. So maybe that helped that I was kind of coming back to it with a fresh eye. So I wasn't getting slowed down like you were. So maybe I didn't notice it as much because I thought it was like, even though there wasn't like a full A and B plot, there kind of was because it's like Geordi on the ship / people down below, even though it's all part of the same plot. It felt like two different stories. So I felt like it went pretty quick and it was a lot of action, a lot of ensemble scenes. So I gave this a very solid upper middle for me, whereas there wasn't anything profound about it. So it didn't like go into the top of the season so far, but it was just like, I thought it was like a good all cylinders kind of pumping episode. Nothing really crappy about it, but there was a lot of these weird little moments like, why did they do that? Why didn't this happen? So I get that. It kind of balances it out.
But yeah, I think it was a good step, and you're right, a good showcase for a lot of secondary characters.
Yeah, nothing astounding, but like, okay, that was good. It was all right.
So we got some
Trek
factoids.
Facts. Yes. So the sand in the cavern that they fell into, the hole, the sand they used as a prop was infested with actual fleas, which made the shoot an utterly miserable experience for Patrick Stewart and Gates McFadden, who were under constant attack by those little fleas biting them the entire time they were filming those scenes, which sounds awful. The miniature of the drones that were flying up in the sky, if you look at them now, it makes total sense. The visual effects supervisor, Dan Curry, used old Legs pantyhose containers that look like those eggs, Yeah. He used those to make those and painted them in an old shampoo bottle. So there's a shampoo bottle attached to a Legs pantyhose and painted. It's hilarious. This is the second time the saucer separation sequence is used for the USS Enterprise. Mm-hmm. The saucer is only shown being separated 2 more times, but I won't say when just so we don't spoil anything. But
one's in a movie. Is this in the show 2 more times?
Huh?
Does the movie count as part of those 2 more times?
I won't say. Just so you'll be surprised.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Oh, I want that queued up. When questioned by Captain Rice, the guy who's a hologram, Commander Riker answers that his ship is called the Lollipop, claiming that it is a good ship.
Yeah, the good ship Lollipop.
And this is a reference to Shirley Temple's song "On the Good Ship Lollipop."
Lollipop.
So yeah, that
was a good one.
Yeah, it was fun. He's like, "What is the name of your ship?" The Lollipop.
What is your armament? It's a good ship.
It's a good ship. So Steve, what are our Trek connections this time around?
Oh boy, do I got some. Vincent Schiavelli. I don't know if that's how you say his name.
It's the ghost guy.
That's the guy who played the peddler, the ghost guy. He played the peddler. That was the character title, apparently. He played a voice in Batman the Animated Series, one of the minor voices. The Penguin in Batman the Animated Series was played by Paul Williams, who wrote Rainbow Connection. And he was in Muppet Show guest.
I forgot about that.
1.
Yeah.
So Paul Williams.
Nice.
Vito Ruginis, who played like the jerk commander.
Oh yeah.
Like the engineer, the chief jerk. He was in Jumpin' Jack Flash with Whoopi Goldberg, who played God in It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, and Carol Kane, who was Myth, yes. Yeah, Carol Kane from the Muppet movie. That cameo.
Very nice.
So Vito Ruginis. Marco Rodriguez, who played the really off-putting like friend of Riker's hologram.
Oh yeah, Captain Rice. Yeah.
He was in the Muppets 2016 TV series where he played character Older Latino Man.
Oh, he's getting them roles.
He's been in tons of stuff. I was blown away, actually, that in 2016, that deep into his career, he still takes like unnamed roles.
Good for him. He's a working actor.
Yeah, damn right. And then Julia Nixon, who played Ensign Lien Su, played a character called Mele Walla on the animated series The Wild Thornberrys. Nigel, the father on that show, was voiced by Tim Curry, who played Long John Silver in Muppet Treasure Island.
And was the original voice for Joker in Batman the Animated Series before they kicked him off for Mark Hamill, who was on that show with Paul Williams, who was also on the Muppet Show.
Oh my God, it all comes round.
Which makes sense because they're the same show, really. Both these things.
They basically are. Both feature friendly but lifeless things. The yellow friendly fellow fire hydrant and the hologram salesman.
And Captain Rice, you could argue as well.
That's true.
Both feature one of our main cast going to a strange land and getting attacked by the residents there. Traveling Matt getting attacked by Sprocket the dog on Fraggle Rock, and the Enterprise away team getting attacked by the drones on Star Trek.
Both feature people facing their fears with their seniors suddenly gone. Gobo going to outer space for Uncle Traveling Matt, and LaForge taking charge of the Enterprise while Picard and Riker were gone.
Oh, that's very true.
That's right.
Both feature a cast member needing to be encouraged by their friends to accomplish their goals. Gobo needs the encouragement of the other Fraggles to go to outer space and to get Traveling Matt's postcard. And Dr. Crusher needs encouragement by Picard to stay awake and not lose consciousness.
Also, Troy encouraging Geordi.
Yes, very true. Well, so many similarities.
So many similarities. My God.
Oh, my gosh. What's that noise?
Transporter malfunction. Transporter malfunction.
All right, it's a part of the show where we transport one character from one of the episodes to the other and vice versa. Our first time with Fraggle Rock, so let's do it, Steve.
Bringing from the Rock to Trek, I'm going to bring over Philo and Gunge, who are those two little rat guys, the trash heap sidekicks.
Yeah.
And have them sidekick to the hologram, taunting Picard about the system specs and the defense system, its capabilities.
You won't buy it. Fraggle Rock to Star Trek. I'm going to have Doc take the place of the holographic weapons dealer because he'd be all folksy and friendly and
like befuddled.
Yeah, Picard wouldn't be able to lose his patience with him. So meanwhile, he'd be like lulled into complacency and the drones would just kill everybody.
Trek to Rock, bring over the pushy salesman hologram and replace Junior Gorg. As he sees Gobo, he just starts screaming about all how crazy his weapon system is, and it's like, "Don't you want to buy one?" As Gobo's like, "God, get the fuck out of here!"
So I have a similar thing in that I'd have the killer drones take the place of Sprocket the dog, so that anytime a Fraggle comes through the hole in the wall, they get incinerated by lasers.
and there's like a really eerie hologram of Uncle Traveling Matt. Hello, nephew Gobo. How big are your armaments?
What do you mean armaments?
How many of there are you?
Wait, is your mom still alive?
Every day the world begins again.
Okay, it's him. He's singing. Okay.
See, there you go. That's the show I want to watch.
Well, that brings us to the end of episode 123 of the MuppeTrek Podcast.
Join us next time for Fraggle Rock episode Wembley and the Gorgs.
And Next Generation series episode Symbiosis.
So from the lovers, the dreamers, and us.
Live long and prosper, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the MuppeTrek Podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media on Facebook and Twitter.
Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
This podcast has been brought to you by A Play on Nerds.